All right, we're rolling. Awesome. Lily, so glad to have you here. So good to see you. As we were just saying, like we've had so many deep conversations just via phone over the past year, and I've never met you in person. So maybe that'll happen sometime, but good to see you on camera here.
Yeah, you too.
Um, and I really just want to start by thanking you for being here and taking a few minutes to really contribute your story and a couple insights from what has been taking place for you over the past couple of months. Because as you remember from the very beginning of your process, sometimes it's easy to kind of fall into this state where things have been such a way for so long. You might be experiencing some pain or some distress, and I think everyone has experienced this at one point in their life. And we get to this place where we think, how could things be different, right? So being able to see that somebody else has been through that, I think enables people to take that first step of belief of maybe this could be different. So I'm just incredibly blessed that you're here and you're willing to share a piece of that. And I thank you for that. I
Thank
think
you.
maybe what would be great is, do you want to maybe start, just give a little introduction to who you are, what you're about, just a couple things just to kind of give us a foundation of who you are. And then also, where was your life at when you and I kind of first met and got linked up?
Yeah, for sure. I work as a barista. I just got certified in massage therapy. I love to do art and music, so super creative person. And I really care about people and interacting with them, but it was kind of getting shadowed by a lot of my issues when we first started talking. I was having a lot of panic attacks and I could barely get through the day. It was really hard to just interact with a bunch of people and feel like set and okay in my body.
Hmm.
I was experiencing a lot of issues there. So yeah, it was just in a really like scattered place, and yeah, it wasn't
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And what other kind of problems was that creating for you? I mean, was that, as I recall, it kind of was just getting in the way of you being in tune with yourself, I think, but maybe just what other emotional challenges was that creating? Was that creating challenges with your relationships, or how would you describe that?
It definitely was. Yeah, I found myself not being able to get as close to people as I would have liked to, like my classmates at the time, my coworkers. It was really hindering my relationships with them.
Sure.
And that like was super aggravating, obviously, because I was like, why can't I just get past this in
Right,
myself? Just
right.
super lost and stuck feeling. So it was definitely seeping in there.
Yeah. And it would be good if you could share a little bit about how are you kind of currently um, conceiving of the problem? Like, how are you looking at what was going on, and what had you kind of tried to ameliorate what you were dealing with up to that point?
So yeah, I just feel like I was again like super scattered and didn't have a strong sense of self.
Hmm.
And I wasn't as aware of my inner workings and like all of that. And I honestly wasn't, I was drinking to try to
Sure,
just
sure.
kind of numb it out. And uh, it kind of made me like escape into my head even more because
Yeah,
like I just wanted to avoid the world even more because I felt like I couldn't function properly in it. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think yeah, I appreciate your honesty on that because a lot of people indulge in some form of a way to shift their state. And in some cases, it is something like alcohol or drugs, which our society obviously has this kind of stigma around. And then also the more socially acceptable forms of this are, like zombie scrolling on social media, or binge watching media, or this type of thing, which none of these things, just like drinking, is like necessarily bad unless it's becoming a way to escape. If it's
Right.
becoming this thing where you're not able to feel like your mind is at peace with itself, just being with itself, and instead you
Mhm.
have to use some sort of arbitrary stimulant or something to change that state. So
Totally.
um, for a lot of the people listening, I think the one thing I want them to do is just kind of reflect, even if they're not necessarily turning to what we would consider a substance, they are turning to something guaranteed, you know, to get through the day. And that can become kind of a self, you know, fulfilling cycle. So, um,
Definitely.
so now, by the way, the other thing too, I think it's fair to say you were a little skeptical, I think, when we first started this process, if I remember correctly. I think you gave it your best foot forward, but to be fair, I think you had that natural sort of reservation. Would you say that's true, or how were you feeling when we got started?
I was a little skeptical only because you were like, I can help you eliminate this. Like by the end of it, you won't be dealing with this. And that was so like inconceivable to me
Yeah,
at the time. I was just like, oh, I can? Like it just wasn't even in my
right,
head before that I could eliminate it.
right,
So,
right.
yeah. So,
So, and maybe if you could describe in your own words, how would you kind of summarize what started happening week by week as we started the process, as we kind of dug into things? How would you kind of describe what occurred?
I definitely like became more aware of kind of why, like what triggered these certain patterns I was creating for myself. So
Hmm.
that was cool to like catch them in
Hmm.
time and be able to work with them more easily.
Hmm.
And because of that, I saw like a downhill in the panic attacks and eventually they just stopped happening.
Right.
So that was super cool. So that definitely happened over the weeks.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't recall exactly how it occurred, but I'm pretty sure there was this moment that happens so often with clients where I think I might have asked you like, oh, well, when was the last time you had a panic attack? And I think you said, I can't really remember. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
isn't it amazing that you
Yeah.
just said that, right? So
Totally.
that's awesome. Everybody has that experience where I always ask them that question. Like it usually happens somewhere around like 6 weeks in, 6 to 8 weeks or so. And then people say, wow, I can't remember the last time I felt depressed, but they'll just say it matter of factly. And then I'll say, do you
Mhm.
realize what you just said? Because literally 2 months ago, you were convinced this couldn't occur. So that's beautiful.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so as that started to happen, I know a big thing that was a big theme of our work was, and I think this is going to resonate so much with anyone who's listening and is experiencing this. For you, there was this dichotomy between anxiety sort of causing you to like withhold and restrict, I guess is the best way to do this. And then what you
Mhm.
really wanted, and I know there was this metaphor of like dancing for you, right? Like this, like just expression.
Yeah.
So did you find that you were just able to like be more yourself, like just be more comfortable? And then like what happened as a result of that in terms of changes in your life?
Yeah, well, it was interesting, like using the dance metaphor, like my movements throughout the day became more fluid. Like I feel like other people could kind of gradually see more energy, like just running through me, and me
Hmm.
being like less afraid to like express myself and to just take up space, which I had been so like fearful of before, hesitant.
Right.
So that
Yeah.
was really awesome to just like feel really like confidence. It was just
Hmm.
confidence. And yeah, so that was amazing in itself.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful thing because so many people, a big part of anxiety for a lot of people is this fear of being seen, you know, is a big piece of that, you know, and I think it's a big piece of what's behind a lot of social anxiety for people or anxiety at work or what have you is this fear of, oh, are people looking at me? Are they judging me? Do I need to, you know, coil in on myself and restrict? And
Mhm.
that real sense of self-esteem is not necessarily like being brash and arrogant. It's just, here I am, you know, this is it. You know, I'm just here in the
Right.
moment. So, it's
Exactly. Yeah, thank
and
you.
so maybe is there anything else you would share about just some new things that are now that you're finding are possible for you, or just other shifts that you didn't expect to occur, like in your romantic life or your friendships, or you know, just anything that kind of happened as a result of this process?
Yeah, all my relationships definitely got a lot better in my life just because I was able to really be more present
Hmm.
and like get past my own stuff and like focus on the other person and interacting with them.
Hmm.
So that really helped out a lot, which was incredible. So that's been like one of the biggest changes I would say is just like being able to connect more genuinely with other people.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Are you still dating the same guy?
I am. Yeah.
Okay, cool. What did he have to say about all this?
Yeah, he thought it was awesome, like all the progress that I've made, and he could see it. And it's made our relationship better for sure because,
Yeah.
like, yeah, just again, moving past my own stuff.
Right.
So, yeah, it's been amazing.
It's like interesting too. I'm curious to hear how you would word this in your own experience. But one thing I see time and time again is getting back to that whole like anxiety versus expression thing, right? Like, can you feel like you can just be who you need to be and express what you have to say or do or whatever? It's a very interesting thing when we remove anxiety, how it seems like it creates a wider space for romance and intimacy and just connection, because you no longer have all of that mental energy being constricted or being used up, I guess I would say.
Hmm.
And that sense of self-esteem just allows you to feel like you can just be seen and be open, and that just creates this like removal of barriers, for most people. So I'm curious if you found that that was kind of your experience to some extent as well.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And it's allowed me to like realize my worth and like go for things I wouldn't usually go for,
Right.
you know, like moving out. Like I never would have thought about moving out, but now I'm like, of course I can. Like I'm capable of it. And
Right.
yeah, it's incredible.
Well, I know we also had that conversation about your career too, right? Because, and
Mhm.
by the way, we're filming this in 2020, late 2020. So, depending on when people see this, right? So it's obviously coronavirus has been the big thing this year.
Mhm.
And I definitely recall one of our recent conversations where you were thinking, well, I guess I'm not going to have, a job until who knows this all rolls, away.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, is that really true? Or are we convincing ourselves of something that may not be necessarily true? And lo and behold, here you are, you're working now, you can
Yeah.
goals. So,
Yeah. It's been amazing. Again, that would not have happened without like, your support and me realizing that like, yeah, that I am capable of it. It can
right.
happen.
It's
Yeah.
amazing what happens either in terms of us limiting ourselves or being able to grow. And it always starts with the sense of certainty. It's like, in other words, if you're certain that things are going to stay how they are, that's what will happen.
Yeah.
You have to first be able to create consciously certainty that things can be different in order to make them different. And I think that's the one of the huge themes I want somebody watching this to see is, a good example is like anything that's in your external world was first in your internal world. Like an apartment you live in, or a car that you have, or an animal that you have in your house, or whatever. It was all first an initial goal in your head, and then it becomes external. So you can't have something external in your world until it's fervently believed internally that it could take
Mhm.
place.
That is so true. Yeah.
Beautiful. Any key takeaways? Because I know people watching this are kind of thinking like, okay, what can I do now to improve things? And obviously, as we learned, as quickly as your transformation happened, it's not an overnight process. And I definitely want people to know that it takes consistency and working at things. You definitely, saw that. Were there any kind of key takeaways or like key things that you learned that you were going to have to do differently compared to what was being done before, that would maybe just give somebody watching this a couple tangible insights or takeaways, I guess?
Yeah, definitely. So a huge thing is continuing to work on everything. Like just because I like finished the program
Mhm.
and, graduated, it doesn't mean that I don't have to like work at any of this stuff ever again. Like it's like a muscle. So I
Mhm.
would advise anybody to just like keep training it and keep strengthening it. Like throughout their entire lives, there's never any shortage of things to like learn and grow on. So I
Right.
think that's like a huge thing.
Mhm.
So
Good,
yeah.
good, excellent. And any last words that you would give? Like, I guess the last thing I usually like to ask on these interviews is if you think back to where you were at, right, several months ago, and you think about somebody who's in that experience right now, like I kind of think of it as like metaphorically, like in the pit, right? Like they're like, you're in that pit, you've been there for a while, you can't really see the light anymore, you're not really sure, what could be done. What would you say to Lily of a couple months ago, or metaphorically someone seeing this right now who's in that similar spot?
I would say that you are so powerful. You don't realize how incredibly powerful you are. And it's just a matter of realizing it, like through these exercises, through these disciplines. And it's just incredible what we can do with our minds and our will. So, yeah, just know that you're incredibly powerful and that there is like a way to get past whatever you're dealing with or to eliminate it. Like, I promise there is, because I didn't think there was. I was just so like accepting
Right.
of my personality.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we come up with this like narrative of who we are at our core.
Mm-hmm.
And that was challenged, right, in our work together and expanded, right? Not restricted, but expanded, right? So
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing. And one thing too, I want to add, I really appreciate you saying like, you don't know how powerful you are. And I think the thing that I always try to help people understand is, you are not broken. This is kind of this idea that people adopt is like, well, this is just how it is because of what happened in my past, because I had this abuse, right? All those things may be true. I'm not invalidating the significance of those things, but the emotional resources that are going to be necessary to move your life forward in the way that you want are not even necessarily things that we have to teach you as a new skill. Rather, we just simply have to help you uncover and express the resources that are getting blocked up and restricted currently, right? And that's what I think helped you
Exactly.
understand on our very first call, right? Is we
Yes.
want to tap into that resource that's always been there, right? But for some
Mm-hmm.
reason we've tucked it away or made it wrong or just not been able to figure out how to access it, right? That sense of courage or playfulness or whatever it is. So
Right. Right. It's
beautiful.
always there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. So what are you looking forward to now? What's possible for you now as you kind of look into the future?
I'm looking forward to really just, going through the world and going through life, like really comfortable in my own skin
Mhm.
and like not being like fearful of, social interactions or like taking up space. Like I said, that's going to be really fun to like, navigate the world like that. It's a completely new lens. So mostly that. And then, of course, moving out and just like feeling a lot more independent as well, having like a better hold on my finances. And yeah, I'm
That's
just,
amazing. That's
yeah.
amazing. Well, Lily, I am incredibly blessed to have known you, worked with you, and there's always very unique values and characteristics about every client. Some are more playful, some are more strong, and they've kind of forgotten their strength and all these things. And the thing that caught my attention is that you just radiate this sense of compassion for other people. And that is an exceedingly rare quality in human beings, and it's so absolutely essential for us moving our entire species forward, particularly in a year like this year, right, where we're amidst multiple layers of division in our country and community and so forth. So the fact that now that radiation is just going out, with less withholding, and I can just see it so much more clearly and coming out of you, pouring out of you. It's just an amazing gift that you have. And, anybody who meets you is obviously better off for having known you for that same reason, because you pass it on. So it's been a true blessing working with you in this capacity. I hope to stay updated on how your life continues to grow and expand and learn more about your contributions to the world. And just bless you for who you are and everything that you've done. And thanks so much for sharing your story. It's going to be a gift for other people.
Thank you so much, Ty. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I'll talk to you soon. Take care, okay? Be
All
well.
right. You too.